I'm Chief Warrant Officer 4 Victor Pinion, U.S. Navy, retired, telling some stories of my naval career. This one is a continuation of when I was aboard the USS Midway CV61 as the Catapult and Rescue Visual Landing Aids Maintenance Officer. I had learned pretty early on in tour duty that my office, the maintenance office, and myself had very little credibility. My two predecessors had not done a job well, and they had no credibility, and an alcoholic chief, who was the only AB chief in the division, did have credibility, and everybody depended on him for guidance in just about every matter. In any case, I reported aboard and started doing my job, and of course that made him feel threatened, and he resisted just about everything that I did. Well, I already told you about some of the infrastructure type maintenance support infrastructure programs that I initiated and got going on the ship, and that were very successful. Well, there were several more that I did, and this one is a continuation of the 3M system, Maintenance Material Management program. I told already about the preventive maintenance system and making up new maintenance schedules and getting new maintenance requirement cards and starting to use them, and the struggle of getting the work center supervisors to use those maintenance requirement cards and do the jobs in accordance with them. I'll tell another story that deals with the difficulty of that later. But this one is part of the 3M infrastructure in that we had to document uncompleted or deferred maintenance actions on a 4792 kilo form. We refer to them as 2 kilos. They were deferred action forms, which were also used as work requests to get civilian yard worker help to do work on the ship. That had not been going very well, and one day an airman from the catapult crew showed up wanting a 2 kilo form, and Merciless, the first class that worked in the maintenance office, counted off 7 original and 6 copies of the 2 kilo forms and handed them to me. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm giving the man a set of 2 kilo forms." I said, "Those are all, that's one." I said, "If he makes one mistake, he'll have to come back and get it." He said, "Yeah, these guys are always wasting these forms." I said, "Well, they don't cost us anything from our budget. And if they make a mistake on it, and everybody does make mistakes, why don't you give them a whole pad of them? Oh, both of them won't waste them." I said, "Give them a whole pad of them." And he did. So him and I had a talk on how to better support the work centers with all the different forms that they needed to use, and with the templates, for us to make up templates for them to use to make sure they got the form filled out properly, and it would help them prevent making mistakes in the future. They would have plenty of forms to use. So we ordered a whole bunch of the forms. Merciless and I talking and how best to support them. Like, I needed a copy of every 2 kilo form that they had filled out in the maintenance office to keep myself informed and up to date on what's going on, although I did have to sign every one of them. We created a duplicate 2 kilo file, work center deferred action file, for the maintenance office. And we got boxes of all the different forms, and we made out cheat sheets, things for making those forms out, where you could have a template with cutouts in it. You lay it over the form. If there's a blank, you miss something. So we got a little wall desk. It mounts on the wall, a little single drawer desk. It mounts on the bulkhead, and we mounted it. And we got a set of a magazine rack, sheet metal magazine rack, mounted it above the desk. And in the magazine rack, we sectioned it off and labeled each one by the work center for its deferred action forms, this file of deferred action forms, and with a listing of them on the left side, a copy of each one on the right side for there. And we got every one of the 3M system publications, and we put them in special slots in that magazine rack. Well, in the little single drawer desk, we cut a plexiglass covering for the writing surface of it, and we slipped special information underneath that plexiglass so it's readily available to the work center supervisors. And in the drawer, we put pads of copies of the blank, all the blank forms that they used. They had everything they needed to make their job easier. And I mustered them up, all the work center supervisors and the chief, in the maintenance office. I introduced the program to them after me and Merklis had already done everything and set it up. Merklis had told me, he said, Bosun, they'll just steal all these forms. I said, well, fine. If we discover that the drawer is empty, we'll just fill it up again. Every time we check it several times a day. If it's empty of a certain form, we'll just fill it up again. Pretty soon, they'll have about a lifetime supply of them, and they'll stop stealing them. They might even start bringing some of them back. Who knows? And it'll be easier for them to fill out the form right here. They got everything they need to fill it up right here, and they won't have to make special runs, send airmen to get one, and then bring him back with it and so forth, and then for you to proofread it and send them back because there's something wrong, and then for me to sign it. It all be done in one trip. The work center supervisor himself do it. Well, they resisted doing that, but I insist that they do. Sure enough, they did steal all the pads of forms several times. We discovered the drawers empty. Filled it up. Marks had a box of pads of each one of the forms under the desk. Just pull it out, fill that drawer up again. Had to do that several times. But it took a couple of months before the work center supervisor accepted that program and how easy it was for them to do it. In doing this, I'm gaining credibility as a maintenance officer, and my office is gaining credibility. Slow, but it was working. Okay, that's enough of this one. Y'all carry on.